This is Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. We're back with my dear friend Sarah Lamb, who's the real estate guru. We heard on our program previously, and I had so many additional questions to ask you, and would love just to explore what you're doing in real estate, kind of the future of real estate and development here in Texas and across the country. Sarah, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you again.
Likewise.
So tell us, we were having a conversation about real estate where we left off. What are you seeing in the real estate business? We spoke about the retail side continuing to grow and evolve, that online shopping isn't diminishing the need to get out and shop at retail establishments. And I think Texas has been a really good model. When I travel across the country, I see so many shopping centers that were great 30 years ago. But real estate is thriving in your market. What are you seeing?
It is. Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with just how insulated Texas is from recession and from kind of the impact of interest rates. I think there's a lot of developers and consumers that have a lot of confidence in the Texas market. And I think a lot of it's just from really good policy and just being really pro-business in Texas.
Yeah, I agree with you. One, it's a huge state. Mm-hmm. It's the second largest state in population in the country, only behind California. It's larger than New York State. It's larger than Florida. So there's a lot here. The land mass is just huge. If I travel from the Dallas area to El Paso, it'll take me about 10 hours to get there.
Sure.
Just absolutely massive. So it kind of signals what you're saying. And there's just a little bit of insulation because of it. And I think you mentioned the policies work well. But what's happening from a future of development in the real estate market, particularly in Dallas? You've got the Star and so many other projects. Mm-hmm. There's a lot happening in Fort Worth, some redevelopment in parts of Dallas proper and Dallas with the MSA. What are you seeing?
It's just a lot of exciting things. I think a lot of people don't realize this if you're not in commercial real estate. But the retail side, actually, what we say is retail follows rooftops. And so there's a lot of synergy between kind of development of single-family homes and multifamily homes and then retail.
Okay.
So we're seeing a lot of growth kind of coming. We're seeing, obviously, Frisco with the Universal Studios and the PGA. So a lot of retail and single-family development and multifamily is kind of following that path of growth. It was just announced today that actually Dallas County is getting their first HEB.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe it's going in Frisco. So it's just incredible. And a lot of these developers are really kind of getting ahead of the path of growth. Frisco is booming. Sure. But a lot of people got into the Frisco development market 15 years ago because they kind of saw the path along the tollway. Wow. And then they see path of growth along 380 and 121. But we're starting to see kind of development in these great markets, like I mentioned before, like Melissa, Texas. And
so I know our program is national and international, but if there's anyone that's familiar with Dallas and Texas, HEB has been a storied company here. And I think I've mentioned it previously on one of my programs, and I know one of the members of the family leading the company now. HEB is a $40-ish billion company, and they're only in Texas.
Yes.
It's incredible. They have more online grocery sales for HEB than even Amazon. Mm. And this was maybe a year or so ago. But at $40 billion, they're one of the largest privately owned, one of the top 10 privately owned companies in the country in terms of revenue. They're a massive organization. Very impressive. People love their HEB here in Texas.
They do. Dallas is blessed to have Central Market, which is kind of their higher end product, which competes with Whole Foods. But also, those that don't live in Texas, what HEB offers the communities is pretty incredible. When we have, severe storms or kind of tragic events here, when it comes to weather related, whether it's freezing or hurricanes, they're often the first to deploy food and resources to our communities. So they're really kind of ingrained in that Texas spirit.
They have great values.
They do.
And they love Texas, which is also incredible. Now, if my producer doesn't mind, my other favorite company is Buc-ee's.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, my gosh. And now they've expanded outside of Texas.
Yes.
They're in Alabama. When I was driving out recently to another state, I visited several of the Buc-ee's. I think they're getting ready. They've announced an opening, I believe, in Virginia now. And I believe Florida is another target, but Buc-ee's is fantastic.
It is. And I think they just broke ground, or maybe they're about to deliver the largest Buc-ee's in Texas.
Really?
So
Okay.
that award, I think last year went out of state, but now they're making sure that the biggest Buc-ee's still exists in Texas.
And your comment about rooftops. So beyond Dallas itself, Dallas County, you have a lot of growth even out in Forney, East Texas, and then they're expanding well into the direction of Fort Worth from a home building perspective. And then up north, Prosper, you mentioned Anna and Melissa, there's just continuing expansion there. And there's a lot of business expansion with TI, Texas Instruments, building out in Sherman. So
That's
I think
right.
it's going to continue moving north of Dallas towards the Oklahoma border. There's a lot of housing that's taking place.
That's right. It's incredible. And I think we're just so blessed that Frisco and Irving and just the DFW area just attracts so many of these corporate relocations. So
Right.
that's also kind of propelling the increase in density.
It is.
Goldman Sachs coming here,
Yeah.
they're looking for a certain kind of quality product at a certain number, a certain amount of guaranteed spots at public and private schools in the Dallas area. So
Incredible. Now, we spoke briefly before this program began, and you mentioned the number of small businesses that are growing. Tell us what you're seeing in the marketplace from a small business perspective.
Sure. So I like to focus primarily on the urban core. So that just means kind of inside the 635 loop. So when you think urban core, it's mostly our city, the main city. So you have what we consider like Irving and Sherman and all that. Those are the suburbs of Dallas, right? And so I focus on the urban core, and I've noticed a shift. A lot of the landlords and developers have a lot more confidence in kind of the mom and pop shops and their ability to perform, and they're actually kind of putting more weight behind those as tenants that they want to see on their projects over some of these national credit tenants.
That's fascinating. I know there's a lot of debate between some of the national chains, but it sounds like there's an opportunity for someone, an entrepreneur looking to create a concept, a retail concept, that they can survive and do well, because not everyone is looking for a national chain.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, though. I mean, even if you look at the Dallas food scene, which is, going out to eat at restaurants is probably the, number one pastime outside of the Cowboys season for those in Dallas. And the concepts that do the best are the ones that are really hyper-focused and originate from Dallas. The ones where it's that kind of Southern hospitality where the owner's there that knows your name, will shake your hand, that you can call for a reservation.
I love it.
And we're seeing kind of concepts come from Miami and Las Vegas and New York that come, like Carbone, that are doing well, but don't kind of have that Midas touch, that Southern hospitality that you see that are doing well, but not as well as kind of these more established local brands.
Well, and so I was introduced to the owner of the Biscuit Bar. They're a local Texas organization. They sound like they're doing well. I hope that we can have them on the program soon. But you're right. There's so many different brands. There's a local company here called Tender Barbecue. I haven't been there yet, but the owners are very involved in the community. The brisket, I love brisket. So speaking of which, do you have a favorite food type or?
Oh my gosh. I eat it all. I really I think the neighborhood kind of Americana bistro is really making a comeback.
Nice. That
That place that you can kind of just walk down the street and you can run into your neighbors and have just a really good meal with a really kind of wholesome, warm environment is kind of what appeals to me right now.
Okay, I am a huge fan of the brisket.
Yeah.
Since moving to Texas, I love it. So you came from California?
Yes,
though.
yes.
Were you a brisket type in California?
Our barbecue is different. So
It
we don't
is.
really have barbecue. We have what we call barbecue is just throwing a tri-tip or ribs on the grill with some barbecue sauce. So, I mean, Texas barbecue is definitely a treat.
Well, I was surprised when I moved to California that I'm so used to the holidays and Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving meals, and went to Southern California and everyone was cooking out for Thanksgiving on a grill. And I thought, this is really strange. But I loved it. We still celebrate our traditional Thanksgiving. So I don't know how it was in Northern California, but
Yeah, it's the same. It's interesting though, because you go to the grocery store and I probably couldn't find a tri-tip to save my life here.
Right,
You can find a brisket all day long. But I grew up in Georgia, so I grew up on I love hot boiled peanuts and I love grits and all that. So
I couldn't find grits in Southern California when I first moved. I found it in one section, but I am a huge grits fan.
But it's so funny. I didn't have queso until I moved to Texas.
Oh,
it's just not something that you see on the menu in California.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's a place here in Addison that has, it looks like a lava kind of bowl that they warm up, I believe, to 400 degrees.
Oh, my word.
And they serve the queso in it. It is absolutely incredible. I've become a huge fan of the Texas-style queso as well.
So I might get in trouble for saying this, but my favorite Texas queso is at the small little restaurant in Dallas in Uptown called Las Palmas.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful, it has a wonderful vibe to it, but the best queso in Dallas.
I have to go check it out.
Yes.
Any other places in around Texas that you frequent? Do you travel? I think you travel a lot to Austin. Do you have any favorites down there as well?
I do, I just experienced Jeffrey's for the first time in Austin, and Clark's Oyster Bar. So that's one of those concepts that kind of food groups that originated from Austin. They have a Clark's Oyster Bar in Aspen, and actually we're getting our first Clark's Oyster Bar in Dallas on Fitzhugh right on the trail. But I tend to like to support the retailers and the restaurants that I help put in our community. So Goodwin's is a little East Dallas restaurant that is one of the most incredible openings. I mean, they are busy 7 nights a week, and so that's one of my favorites right now.
At one point, I was traveling to Fort Worth quite often, and I came across a group of people that formed during COVID. Mm-hmm. And their whole premise was, we're going to continue to have these small group meetings, and they would have a meeting each week at a different restaurant because they wanted to support the local owner. And I thought, what a novel idea to make sure that you can try to encourage people to get out and support these local enterprises, these small business owners that you spoke about. And they're still doing it today. It's really, really neat to see them support these small local businesses.
Well, and it goes both ways. It's interesting. Texas and Dallas is just really a giving community. One of the boards I sit on is the Young Women's Preparatory Network. And we've actually partnered for a fundraising dinner at a local restaurant called Beverly's.
Right.
It's a wonderful little bistro. It's owned by Greg Katz on Fitzhugh. And he's closed down the entire restaurant for us on Monday, the 16th. And we're doing a chef-driven dinner with wine pairings, all benefiting the Young Women's Preparatory Network. So it goes both ways. It's these wonderful local restaurants that support our local nonprofit organizations, and then vice versa.
So, Sarah, I'm impressed. You mentioned the board. You have a lot of involvement in the community. So you're building a new retail operation at your new company.
Yes.
You're raising a family.
Yes.
And you serve on a lot of boards. And you're traveling to Austin for a state board on behalf of your appointment by Governor Abbott.
Yes.
But tell us about your community involvement and why that's important. I think a lot of business leaders lose sight of the ability to balance generating revenue, making money, building a good business with serving the community. You figured out a balance.
Yes. I try to, and I only give my time to these boards and organizations that I feel I connect with and is important to kind of my mission. I have 2 small children, Henry and Poppy. They're 6 and 8. I think it's important for them to see their mom making time to give back to the community. Right. So yes, I do sit on a few boards. I sit on a local zoning board, the Zoning Board of Adjustment for the City of Dallas. I'm a Governor Abbott appointee. And then I serve on a few nonprofit boards. Young Women's Preparatory Network is one of them. We are a DISD here, but it's across the state. We're a magnet school, all-girls school, and we help girls that are usually minorities from low-income communities and first generation to even look at the potential of going to college. And our high school graduation rate is near 100%, and then placement at college is the same. So that's a great organization that's really involved in kind of giving back. And then I serve on the board of Brian's House. We help children with disabilities in North Texas. But, I make sure that I have enough time for, obviously, being a mom is most important, and then my business and real estate. But when you have a good network and you have kind of a good board and you have a great, well-run organization, it's you can step into it and kind of open up your connections and help support the organization without taking away from the time of being a mom. And I think it's very important to put being a mom first. And so I always plan board meetings and I plan events around the times I don't have my kids.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, I think I mentioned this to you previously. I've spoken with a lot of business owners, business leaders, And a lot of them really don't understand the importance of good policy and the impact of policy by government officials on their organizations. And convincing them that it's important has been hard for some of them, because they just, I had one business leader to tell me that, Ronnie, I have no interest in policy because it doesn't impact me. So they're missing out on the taxes that are created. But your zoning board, I'd love for you to tell the listener about why a zoning board is critical to their business, whether here in Texas, Dallas, or across the country. What do you do on the board, and why is it important for a business owner to understand the impact?
Sure.
Podcasts are so popular, even monkeys are doing it.
75% of Americans listen to podcasts monthly. That's 210 million people in the United States alone. And yes, podcasts are profitable. Joe Rogan is making $30 million per year. Your content, your knowledge is worth sharing. Don't just dream it, do it. Visit andycostafilms.com /podcast and turn your content into leads.
So in the city of Dallas, and typically across any city, you have two zoning boards. You have the Planning and Zoning, or City Planning Commission,
Right.
And then you have what's called the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So Planning and Zoning is where most of your development approvals, if you want to rezone a property, will go through that. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is different. It's quasi-judicial. So we are empowered by the state legislature. We act almost like a judiciary. We cannot be lobbied. And so we are basically the zoning entity that if you want a variance on, say you're only allowed to build a 4-foot fence, but you, for safety reasons, want a 6-foot fence, you come in front of our board. If, as a business, you have a piece of real estate and you have a restaurant and you only have 8 parking spots, but you need 16 in order to get a certificate of occupancy, you go in front of this board and say, I would like a variance on parking, and this is why. If you have setbacks on a property, or if the city of Dallas, for example, says, we don't approve of your certificate of occupancy, but you're ready to open.
Sure.
You can appeal to our board and the decision from the city and come to our board and grant and ask for relief. So it's important to serve in those type of capacities, because you get to understand the challenges that those property owners, neighbors may have, just developing or building a fence, all the way to, somebody that's building a 50-story multifamily development, but might have a visibility triangle issue or a setback issue. So it just helps you kind of understand really how the city functions and how the ability to develop a property, if you will.
That's interesting. How do you work through the complexity of understanding the right decision? Not to get into too much in the details of the board, but I suspect when you talk about a 50-story building, those are complex. And here you are sitting on a board where you're impacting the future of a business potentially and getting that variance. But how do you figure that out and be able to make the right decision? Because that's not necessarily a values-based decision. How do you figure some of that out without being kind of lobbied in those sessions by whoever has a special interest?
Sure. And the nice thing is I can't be lobbied. So when I show up to my board once a month, we get briefed in the morning by city staff. It's open to the public. And then we have what we call the hearing portion in the afternoon. Okay. A lot of what we decide on is based on statute. So we don't have a lot of room to make decisions that are not flexible. Although no case that's precedent, our decisions are very important. They impact the neighbors and community. So we do take in consideration certain things for what is the neighborhood sentiment, right? Every case the neighbors within 200 feet get notified of a pending zoning case. So they have a moment to have a public comment. We look at kind of best and highest use. Is this land irregularly shaped? Is this the only way to develop this land this way? There have been hard cases where, structures have been built and the foundation wasn't poured correctly per a conservation district, and you have to decide and take the emotion out of it. Do we deny their request for relief and let and have them essentially tear down their structure to build appropriately, or do we give them relief and say you can build, but you didn't build, the right specifications? It's challenging, but you really have to kind of look at the statute. You have to look at the fine parameters in which we're legally allowed to rule on, and you have to take the emotion out of it and kind of just look at it as very objectively as possible.
No, that makes sense. And that's an incredible honor to be on that board and have that level of influence in helping people resolve issues and challenges. Last question on the community involvement piece. The boarding school, impressive. So nearly 100% going to college.
Yes.
Talk to us about the program. How does one gain access to that kind of program and education? How does one help these young people figure out how to become the next Sarah? So it's an all-girls boarding school.
So
it's amazing.
That's right. So I actually just joined their board probably 2 months ago, and I immediately got voted in as the chair of the development committee.
Oh, wow.
So it's a magnet school. So it's an all-girls school. We have 8 schools across Texas. So a magnet school means it's a public school, so it's through the ISDs, but it's all girls. And so it starts at a pretty young age, elementary to high school. And it's great because it was the first all-girls school to pass in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so it just allows kind of a safer environment where women can focus, and we're basically uplifting girls and giving them all the tools in a college preparatory dynamic to elevate them and give them the tools to succeed in college. Because a lot of them, not having known anybody that has even been to college, it's helping give them a hand, not a hand out, but a hand up, and giving them the tools to succeed.
In what I found in my career, having volunteered a lot over the past 30-something years, is sometimes for these young people, it's just a matter of knowing what the options and opportunities are, and then having someone that can kind of explain and mentor them through that process, because they're bright. They're incredibly bright.
That's right.
They just need someone to guide them on that journey.
That's right. And our one of our locations is actually right next to Fair Park, and it's just it's great to kind of go out and see. I've toured it several times, and they even have a robust robotics program, and it really feels almost like its own little tight-knit community. Most of the girls get along. I mean, they've been with each other for years, and it's just that really kind of special environment.
So as we prepare to kind of wrap up our conversation, we have a few minutes to go, but walk me through the concept of marketing, repeat business. Like, how do you now build out your business enterprise on the retail side from a marketing perspective? I know repeat business is probably a really big deal in your industry. How do you keep people coming back to you?
I think a lot of it's obviously performance-based, and then having being available. I mean, a lot of my clients on the landlord side or on the tenant side, they can call me at any time. I was, sitting at a board meeting in Austin, and my client on the retail side was at closing in Dallas on a property, and I couldn't be there because I was serving on a Abbott appointed board. Right. But I saw a title company call, and I stepped out of my meeting to take that call. And he knew I was in a board meeting. And I think that, I typically wouldn't step out of a meeting, but I think, when your client is closing on a property and their ability, their confidence that they could always reach you is just that different level of service. So when people know they can get a hold of you when they're ready to go and they have business questions and, ready to expand or want to know where they are with a deal, they know they can always get a hold of you. I think that's an important kind of quality to have. Is
social media part of your portfolio of marketing engagement?
It is. It's usually on the kind of at the end of the business transaction, right?
Sure.
When we get a deal done, and then kind of following them through the process, right? We'll sign a lease with the restaurant, and sometimes it takes up to 12 months to open this restaurant. So I do try to document kind of the success of, hey, we've opened, and then look at the transformation of the space, and now it's open, and then like a lot of this sharing the success. If it's featured in D Magazine or a local publication, I really try to help. So
I was going to ask you that. So not to give away all of your secrets, but you mentioned D Magazine, and I know that a lot of the great real estate agents are in there. But what are some of the other tools that I know in other parts of the country? It's interesting to see, particularly on the residential side, you see advertisements on shopping carts, which I find intriguing. But what do you find works for you? Again, not to give all of your secrets, but
it is with working in it. I feel like you'll appreciate this. Dallas, and I think probably other major cities, even other big cities, they're very small.
Right, I agree.
So when you really start to know the market, that there's probably just a few handfuls of people that are really developing and investing.
Right.
And so really just cultivating those relationships and keep reaching out to them is the biggest piece, the biggest tool, I think, for business development. I wish there was a bigger secret sauce in terms of social media and marketing, but it goes back to just developing and maintaining those healthy relationships.
But I think you said something in there and not seeing it. Being present is so critical. So you have the relationship, but even in having a relationship, it requires maintaining it and being present and engaged and following up.
Yeah. And I have a client out of Canada that's coming in.
Oh.
She comes in probably once a quarter, and we already have a dinner scheduled on the book. So that's part of it. It's not just we only pick up the phone and talk about, the deal or the project we're working on.
Sure.
It's really, making time for them when they're in town,
Right. So how did they find you out of Canada?
That is a good question. So a lot of my business is developed on word of mouth. So
you're smiling really big, so there's probably a bigger story there.
I had a really good landlord that I was working for, did a lot of work for.
Sure.
And they had a relationship with this development company out of Canada that also has an office here, and they had a shopping center in Farmers Branch, and they had a different brokerage firm that was doing the leasing work on it.
Sure.
And they weren't giving it enough attention. It was sitting there only 40% leased and hadn't done much. And so this client that I had kind of put a bug in their ear and put a bug in my ear and said, I think they're unhappy with their representation. Okay. You should reach out to them. And he had a glowing review about working with me and kind of the quality of communication and product I was able to execute on his behalf. And just that word of mouth and me calling really helped formulate that relationship. So
you brought up they had 40%. What are you seeing in your book of business as an appropriate lease rate?
Well, I took on that project probably 14 months ago, and we're now 100% leased on that project.
You're kidding me. All right, Sarah, how did that happen? You got it.
It's really believing in the product. I mean,
100% is huge, though.
It is, yes.
Right? I mean, they're very happy. You can't get any more than 100%, but it's not common to have 100% lease rate in any commercial building, including retail.
Yeah, and it's incredible. And now I actually have a potential buyer to buy the center now that's 100% leased. But and I also specialize in doing what's called pre-leasing. So if we have a future development like the one in Melissa, Texas, bringing on and knowing who to call to kind of put together a retail lineup and get them signed on before we even break ground to kind of help minimize the liability on the developer before closing. But it's not easy to get 100% leased. So it's really about believing in the product. When you go out to the shops at Mustang Station in Farmers Branch, you have Tiffany Neri, who is a wonderful. She was on the Food Network. Right. She has a restaurant there. It was doing so well that she expanded in the center, and then believing in kind of the tenants that are in there, the product. And the market, and really calling people and saying, you really have to look at this. I know you wouldn't consider this market, but this product is just incredible.
Tell me what that pitch looked like. That seems like a special pitch.
It is. It is. I mean, it's honestly getting them out there. It feels like a little vacation.
Sure.
And having a project that is a mixed use. They had 300 multifamily units, and then they had Cox Farmers Market, which is a local grocery store on the project. And then we probably had, I would say, about 100,000 square feet of retail. Oh, wow. But it was a partnership with the city of Farmers Branch. They really wanted kind of their own little town square. And so, making that call and really calling other brokers or tenants and saying, look, you have to come out here. There's something special here. Tiffany Neri's restaurant, which she now opened Radici, but she had Roots Southern Kitchen.
Okay.
That was doing incredible numbers. And the sales numbers were just through the roof. Wow. People were leaving Dallas to come to Farmers Branch just to go to that restaurant. Wow. And so getting kind of future retailers to understand how special the project was and how well other small businesses were doing, it was really kind of the magic sauce to get something done there.
You mentioned something really interesting. So we spoke about policy from the zoning board perspective, but you're right. It sounds like the partnership you had with the city of Farmers Branch was also critical. So companies don't realize that they build a good partnership with the city. The cities can help. So can you walk through why that partnership evolved and developed and why the city was critical to helping you with that facility? These cities want to see their businesses succeed, so they're there to provide support as well.
That's right. I came onto this project after it was already developed. So my client, the developer on the project, Western Securities, had been working with the city for years. And a lot of these municipalities will say, look, I have this piece of land. This is our vision for it. And they will kind of reach out and find a developer that might make sense and give some tax incentives or economic development money to help fund either the build out or some of the building of these projects. And so it's really important to reach out to these cities and see what resources they have, because I think a lot of people don't realize that these cities are eager to create business and they have set aside funds for it.
Yeah, they are eager. And so there are a couple of things that happens within the city. You can probably speak better to this given that you ran for city council. So you have the need to make sure that their cities are succeeding from a couple of different capacities. One, the businesses are succeeding. If the businesses are succeeding, they're creating jobs and opportunities. And when that happens, you're also getting that push back into the community with volunteers and financial support from other leaders. It creates a really good cycle and dynamic in the city.
And then especially with retail, I mean, Farmers Branch really wanted to give their residents, product, a place where they can go and spend their money and spend quality time with their family. Oftentimes people were leaving the city of Farmers Branch that lived there to go and have dinner or spend their money and time elsewhere. So it was in their best interest to develop something that what kept the residents of Farmers Branch there spending money, but also encourage people to leave Dallas and come and spend money there.
So when you leave the work world, you mentioned 2 young kids.
Yes.
I think they're becoming active in sports, and they're at that age now that's just a lot of fun.
It is.
Are you going to coach field hockey team, soccer team? Is that on your list?
You know what? I coached my daughter's baseball team.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Last in the spring, so that was a lot of fun. My daughter's looking at doing gymnastics now.
I love it.
And my son is looking to do flag football. So it does get busy, but it's fun to be involved. Life does get busier the older they get.
Flag football is becoming an Olympic sport now.
I did not know that.
Yeah, at the next Olympics in LA, it's becoming part.
Did it replace breakdancing?
That was interesting to see in the Olympics. I don't know if you saw some of it.
I did.
I'm excited to see the Winter Olympics, and they have some pretty unique sporting events there as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. I noticed that they don't have baseball at the Summer Olympics every 4 years.
Right.
I think it will come back in LA. It will come
back, is what I hear. Now, we're at the end of our second show with you. Any additional advice? You've got some great ideas. I wrote a note about referrals and how important that is, because it sounds like you've mastered that piece, not only getting repeat business, but getting those repeat business leaders to refer you to other businesses. But what other advice would you give someone looking to get into real estate and building a successful career? You built a really successful real estate career in a very short period of time, which speaks a lot about your gift as a leader. But what advice would you give?
I would say look at getting involved in your community. I think there's a lot of investment that happens, the 9 to 5 or even longer at the desk at your office. And a lot of people are working from home nowadays. There's a lot of importance of saying yes to opportunities, seeing what nonprofit you can get involved with. I'm involved with TREC, which is the Real Estate Council. I'm on their PAC Board of Directors, and I'm on their Public Policy Committee. So find something in your profession that maybe has a nonprofit component that helps you understand and network a little bit better. But there is something to be said about giving back and the people that you meet. Being in retail, commercial real estate is so expansive, but being involved with TREC and the Zoning Board of Adjustment, I get to meet other individuals that are impacted by commercial real estate that I might not otherwise meet. So I would say, reach out, see what you can do in terms of getting involved in your community, and also start to say yes. If people ask you to get involved, say yes, don't be scared. You can make time.
And it does. It opens the doors to so many relationships by being active in the community. When in my early 20s, I became chairman of the board for the March of Dimes. And it was amazing what I learned from other leaders that had been active for much longer than I had, and the new introductions that I had. So I think you're right on.
Yes.
Sarah Lamb, thank you for joining us on Business Decoded. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and congratulations on all of your hard work, your appointments, and your achievements.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share, and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.